Joining me now is John Sitilides, Global Risk Analyst with Triology Advisors. He specializes in global affairs and American politics. John, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Two very different leaders, very different personalities, different ideologies. Do you believe they can find common ground? And what a difference this news conference from the time they first met. It was like they were two different people.
Sure. Well, let's look at some similarities, actually. They're both political outsiders, and they're both unafraid to confront their respective political establishments. It's how Macron came to power and obviously Donald Trump. And there are many areas of commonality in terms of counterterrorism, in terms of the military alliance between the United States and France, and there are those differences that are ideological in nature and unmovable, like climate change. But I think these two leaders are going to find ways to work together where they can. They're both very practical people, and Donald Trump needs as many European friends as possible. If Macron is extending that hand, Trump will try to take it where there's the opportunity.
You mentioned climate change. Let me ask you a question about that. There was an interesting statement that Trump made when a reporter asked about climate change, the Paris Climate Accord, and he said he thinks something could happen in regards to the Paris Accord. What does he mean by that? And is there a chance that the United States would actually go back into this deal?
At this point in time, I don't see that happening. I think what President Trump and his administration will try to do, and I look at the EPA and the administrator there and some of his recent statements on climate, to look to see that the U.S. is not seen as being opposed to efforts to deal with climate issues and to improve energy efficiencies and to replace coal with natural gas and other more efficient, cleaner energy technologies. I don't see us going back into Paris, but I think there's going to be a Trumpian or American way to deal with pollution and climate-related issues that doesn't necessarily subscribe to the agreement.
So is this a new chapter in relations between France and the United States?
I'm not sure the country's really veered off course all that much. I mean, right now we have a Donald Trump administration that Europeans are still trying to get their arms around. He's very difficult because he's very challenging and very different than any other American president they've dealt with. But on fundamentals, counterterrorism, Syria, Al-Qaeda and Islamic State in Northern Africa, the jihadist threat to France and to Europe, right? We're commemorating the one-year anniversary of the attacks in Nice. And remember, France has been in a state of emergency for 18 months, ever since those horrific Paris attacks, the end of 2015. So I think these types of issues can actually bind our countries closer together.
What do you think the French think about this new administration? I mean, let's face it, Donald Trump is not your conventional, traditional type of president. It's very different from what they've seen in the past. It's
what almost every world leader is saying when they encounter Donald Trump. And we also have to be respectful of Macron's domestic political considerations. Sure. I believe 75 to 85% of French citizens disapprove of Donald Trump as U.S. president. Now, that may not necessarily affect the relationship directly, but he has to be mindful of French opposition to many of the policies enunciated in Washington. But there are also leaders responsible for the well-being of their respective countries, where Macron and Trump can work together on very critical issues for the good of France, the good of Europe, and the good of the transatlantic relationship. I think he'll seize that opportunity, and Trump certainly will as well.
We'll leave it there. John Sitilides, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks for having me.